Good afternoon from Birch Aquarium on Facebook Live. I'm Caitlin, a familiar face, and I think this face is getting a little bit more familiar as we do more and more of these. I'm with Delanie.
Hi, everybody.
Hi. Delanie, do you want to remind everyone what your job is at the aquarium?
Yeah, so I work in our education department. I'm one of our education coordinators. So typically I'm at the aquarium, I'm writing curriculum, I'm training our interpreters on the floor. So just same work, looks a little different now that we're all at home during this time.
Yeah, and Delanie and I are broadcasting from our homes here in San Diego. And we are really happy to be talking to you this afternoon about our giant kelp forest, but it's also Earth Week this week. And I'm hoping that a lot of you guys celebrated Earth Day at home. I know that we posted a lot of fun things for Earth Day and Earth Week, and Scripps Oceanography also posted some really great tips and facts. So we'll be talking a little bit about Earth Week coming up. Oh my goodness, we have someone from Ontario saying hello already. Hello, thank you for tuning in.
Hello.
We would love today in the comments if you guys could tell us what you're doing for Earth Week. Are you doing anything from home? Things like that. Before we dive into what Delanie and I did for Earth Week, I want to talk about how great the giant kelp forest looks this morning or this afternoon. Oh my gosh, what day is it? What time is it? It looks really good. Delanie, can you tell us a little bit more about the giant kelp that we have in this exhibit on the Kelp Cam?
Yeah, so if those of you who have been tuning in weekly to check out our live kelp cam, we have a lot of beautiful fresh kelp growing in our exhibit today. And what's so unique about our kelp forest exhibit is that it's an open air exhibit. So that kelp is very similar to a plant in that it needs the same things that plants need in order to grow and to flourish. So having all that nice bright sunshine beaming down on it, having the flow of water and the nutrients moving throughout the tank is going to allow this kelp to grow really, really tall. So already this kelp, you can see it's pretty stretched up to the surface, but in the wild it can grow to be about 150 feet tall when it's got everything it needs to grow. So it's looking really healthy today.
It is. It's looking great. And big props to our aquarist team who are always in there taking care of this exhibit. This exhibit's a neat one because it requires them to scuba dive to take care of it. And they're in there a few times a week vacuuming and feeding our animals and then also zhuzhing the kelp. I feel like they have to fluff it up sometimes if it gets tangled. So really, really great. It makes me happy seeing it look like this. And Delanie made a really great point that the kelp can grow to be more than 100 feet tall. And one of the things that people don't always think about is how does the kelp stay up in the water? How does it stay vertical? You would think if something is that tall in the water, it might just start to kind of and lay down along the bottom. So Delanie, how does the kelp stay up in the water?
Yeah, so you can see it still has movement where in the ocean, there's going to be those currents and waves moving water back and forth. But the way that kelp's able to make sure it's rising up to grab all of that sunlight is they have these little gas floats. And those gas floats are at the base of those long leaf-looking what we call blades on the kelp. They look like leaves to us, like we see on a plant. We call them blades since this is an algae and it's the giant kelp. But yeah, they're gas-filled floats that are attached to the kelp. And so those floats are going to bring that nice tall algae up to the surface to capture sunlight.
Yeah, and if any of you guys have visited the beaches here in San Diego or anywhere along the West Coast, you might have accidentally stepped on some of those floats that washed up onto the beach, and they make a very, if it's fresh, a satisfying snap when you step on them, or if they're kind of old and have been on the beach for a while, they're slimy. Have you ever stepped on a slimy one by accident?
It's very gross.
Yeah. Even for us. But anyway, none of us have been to the beach in quite a while, so we're all doing well, staying safe at home. Let's see. Oh, Melissa has commented what she's doing for Earth Week, and this week is she's getting her garden ready for spring and summer and is planting some herbs. That is actually a great thing to do to celebrate Earth Week and to reduce your carbon footprint. I wanted to say that that's actually the same thing I've been doing this week. I have a big garden and I try to grow as much as I can from home because I think one of the things that people often don't consider is maybe how far their food has had to come to get to their plates. And a lot of the time, it's not necessarily the growing the food that causes the big carbon footprint, but it's from getting it from point A to point B and getting it to your house that causes a lot of emissions. So my favorite example is blueberries. I always look at the package of blueberries to see where they came from, because some of them are grown here in the US, but since we like having blueberries year round, if you look at the package, many of them come from Chile. And Chile is a wonderful country. It's beautiful, and they make very delicious blueberries. But that is very, very far away from San Diego. So those blueberries had to go on a very long journey, which required a lot of fossil fuels to get to us. So that little $5 container of blueberries, delicious, but they have a huge carbon footprint. So sourcing your food from places a little bit closer to home is often fresher and more healthy for us. And then also you're helping reduce the carbon footprint of something like blueberries from Chile or apples from New Zealand. So it's interesting to look at your grocery labels. Delanie, are you doing anything for Earth Week?
Yeah, I was going to say, I've been inspired seeing so many people on social media trying to grow their own food from home, even looking at if they're not growing in their own garden, but groceries they do get from the store, being able to reuse them over and over again. Even those small little steps help to reduce your carbon footprint. I've been a little less on the green thumb for gardening. We have rain barrels. So all of that nice heavy rain we got a couple weeks ago has been coming in handy for us. We've been using it to water some of our plants. I have a lot of indoor plants, so rather than using the water from the tap, I'm able to go out to our rain barrels, collect that water, and kind of just recycle it. So it might seem small, it might seem like you're not making a huge step, but anything on a small individual level is going to help. And then eventually, hopefully over time, we can see that positive impact. But it's also fun too to see after how much rain we've had, really how much rain we had.
Yeah.
It's a big surprise what those barrels get filled up with.
Definitely. And sometimes anyone local to San Diego will know we are technically a coastal desert. We have a Mediterranean climate here. So we don't have a lot of rain water to help us out. And often we're in drought conditions. So using something like a rain barrel can be implemented anywhere in the country, but especially if you live somewhere where it doesn't rain all that often. It's a great way to capture it. Super cool. I really want to get some rain barrels. So I'm jealous of those.
They're very handy.
Really cool. So guys, keep telling us what you're doing for Earth Week in the comments. And if you haven't gotten a chance after this, check out the Scripps Oceanography Instagram story. They have somebody who won an award, a campus sustainability award from UC San Diego, and she has some fun tips for you guys as well. Let's see. Oh, we have a question about how the kelp cam looks different sometimes. So Catherine was wondering why sometimes the kelp shows that it's greenish and sometimes bluish. You touched on this a little bit, Delanie, but why is it that the kelp looks like it's different colors all the time?
Yeah, a lot of it has to do with the sunlight that's shining through into our exhibit. Looking at this giant kelp, it's a type of brown algae. But just because it's a brown algae doesn't mean it's always going to have a brown color. Sometimes, depending on the age of the kelp or how healthy it is, if it's overgrown, it's going to look different colors. And then the water itself, it needs to be cleaned, right? This is a huge exhibit, and it's self-sustaining to a point, but that's why we have our husbandry team who goes scuba diving in our exhibit, and they'll scrub algae off of that thick glass you can see, because there definitely tends to be algae that grows. If you imagine you've got sunlight and you've got all of the materials you need in that water in order for these microscopic phytoplankton to start sprouting, the water can turn a slight greenish color. So it all depends on when it's being cleaned, how what the age of the kelp is and how it's growing, and the sunlight that's beaming through. So lots of colors all the time.
I love seeing the Aquarius team clean in this exhibit because they use a suction cup. It looks like just a handle you'd have on like a mug or something, but it has two suction cups on it on the top and bottom. And that's what they can use to suction onto that acrylic so they don't float away as they're trying to scrape off the algae on that acrylic. And that acrylic that we have in there, it's a foot thick. I don't know. It's very hard to do this on the screen. It's a foot thick because there's 70,000 gallons of water and about 275 fish in there. So that's a lot of animals and kelp and water that's being held back by that acrylic. We're getting a great view at our largest fish in this exhibit. Delaney, can you tell us who is that big lady right there?
This is the big lady of the tank. Absolutely. This is our giant black sea bass. And this is a very protected species off the coast of California. If you are an avid scuba diver and you've been diving off of La Jolla or maybe out in Catalina Islands, some of our channel islands, sometimes you can actually see these giant black sea bass in the wild. And looking at our lovely lady at the top there, she's still not full grown. These animals can get quite large. And they are slow moving, you can see, but she definitely asserts her dominance by staying at the top of the tank, letting everyone know who's boss. But the way you can tell this black sea bass is she's got all these polka dots on her, these black dots. So they're really easy to spot. Pun intended.
That makes me very happy. And we've mentioned a few times before that these are an endangered species. Thank you for bringing that up, Delaney. So conserving them is really important and protecting them. So we have marine protected areas off the coast of California, and we have 2 that are located just off of La Jolla. More than that in San Diego, but there's 2 within view of Birch Aquarium. And our team, as well as researchers from Scripps Oceanography, have spotted giant sea bass in the kelp forest in the marine protected area right offshore here. So it's really cool. And it's also fun. We actually have 2 baby giant black sea bass right now. There's one who's living behind the scenes at the aquarium, and another one that some of you might have seen before we closed that was in our nursery area in the Hall of Fishes. And my favorite thing about the baby giant black sea bass is they're like puppy fish. They have gigantic fins, just like a puppy has gigantic paws, and they're very cute. Very cute. We'll have to share some photos of that little one if we can get our Aquarius team to get some new ones for us, because they grow very quickly. Let's see, we had a question about big and small animals. Oh, Paula had a question. How do you keep the large fish from eating the smaller ones in this exhibit? Really, in any exhibit, this is an important thing to keep in mind. Delaney, how come?
Yeah, so at any aquarium, our husbandry team, they are specialized in understanding what these animals like to eat, how much food they need to get, and how often. So it's a really important part of taking care of these animals. And that's one of our most popular questions, actually, is why aren't they eating each other? But they get fed often enough. And if you imagine being in a controlled exhibit like this, where we're providing them with restaurant quality seafood is what we do call it. It's some of the finest seafood coming through that we feed these animals. And so, they're not having to compete for that food with each other. So they're not going to be trying to eat one another. But you do have to make sure you're feeding them often enough to where they're not going to get hungry and start to get curious as to the other critters in the exhibit. But that's a really important part in taking care of a huge exhibit like this. Imagine having to keep track of all of those animals, making sure they're all eating, they're all getting fed, so they have full tummies at the end of the day.
Definitely. It's really fascinating, and it's definitely something that our team of aquarists have to keep in mind for all of our different exhibits. And unfortunately, it does happen every once in a while. But you know what? It happens, but we try our best. So what's really nice, though, is that delicious buffet is brought to them multiple times a week. So I would love it if somebody brought delicious restaurant quality seafood to me all the time. Really fun, really fun. And we're actually getting some great views at 1, 2, 3, I saw 4 Garibaldi, the California state marine fish. There's a California state fish and then the state marine fish, which is our Garibaldi. Delaney, can you tell us a little bit more about the bright orange Garibaldis in this exhibit?
Yeah, so you can really see them perfectly. It's almost like they wanted us to talk about them. But this is our California marine state fish, and you can actually see these just right off our coast in pretty shallow waters. These animals are really special in that they like to lay their eggs on a surface. So we call that demersal eggs, in that they like to settle their eggs onto a rock, and the male will protect them and make sure that no other animals are getting near those eggs. That's their main job when those eggs have settled onto that rock. So in this exhibit, we actually have spots where our Garibaldi have their eggs and they're protecting them. And to make sure that the eggs are getting enough sunlight and water flow, the Garibaldi fish will actually make sure there's no algae growing around it or seagrass. So they'll keep their little nest nice and clean. But if you have a chance to go snorkeling off of San Diego's coast, you can see these animals in rocky reef areas, sometimes maybe around the sandy shore. And obviously they're hard to miss because they're bright orange, like the ones high right now.
And they're bright orange as a warning coloration. They're not poisonous or venomous or anything like that, but they are aggressive little fish. They will tell you if they don't want you to be near them. And sometimes you can actually hear them when you're snorkeling in the water, when they kind of snap their little mouth and are trying to bite at you. Or fish that come into their space. And actually you can see there's the male who's on the lower right of the exhibit right now. There's a rock, the right-hand rock, and there's a little bit of a reddish tinge to the front of that rock there. And I've seen him a few times. He takes his tail and flutters his tail over that space. And what he's likely doing is aerating some eggs if he has eggs there, or just really helping get that algae in tip-top shape to impress some of the females. It's like he's mowing the lawn to impress the ladies. Pretty fun. And we talked about this a little bit on Tuesday, but one of the favorite tools of our Aquarius team is actually a turkey baster. A big turkey baster is a great and safe way to move very tiny baby fish or seahorses from one exhibit to another, or if you have to transport them, to move them into a little transport container. It's also a very great way to suck up those fish eggs, because if we had baby Garibaldis hatching in this exhibit, they're so tiny, like a half an inch maybe, Delanie? Do you know? Maybe smaller?
Yeah.
Really small. And this exhibit is just not designed to house teeny tiny baby fish that big. So we actually have a video of our Aquarius Vince sucking up those Garibaldi eggs so we can take them to a more appropriate place for those babies to hatch out behind the scenes. It's pretty cool. I love that the turkey baster is such a funny tool that they use. This is great. Let's see. Oh, we're getting some more really great questions. We have another one that is about kelp conservation. What risks do kelp face? Disease, warming waters, sea urchins? Delanie, can you tell us a little bit more about kelp conservation?
Yeah, so one of the key ingredients for kelp to be really healthy is cold water. And because cold water holds a lot of nutrients. And so this algae needs a lot of nutrients in order to grow. Of course, if you've experienced a summer off of San Diego's coast and it's a warmer summer, the water's a little bit warmer, that kelp isn't going to grow as nicely. So increasing temperatures of our ocean is going to have a huge impact on giant kelp. It's going to not allow that cold nutrient water to supply the nutrients to this algae like it would normally need. And you can imagine just seeing and hear all the fish swimming around in the kelp. This is very much similar to what you would see in the wild. This is a huge habitat, a huge ecosystem of systems that are working together to provide a home for these animals, provide food, shelter. And without that kelp growing tall, there's going to be a lot of kind of impacts that happen after that. So temperature of our oceans are really, really important to focus in on with climate change and what it's doing to affect habitats like a kelp forest. And she also mentioned sea urchins. If you don't know, sea urchins, one of their favorite foods is giant kelp. Those purple sea urchins we have off our coast, they love kelp. They will eat kelp all day, every day. So it's really important that you have that stability in a food chain to where we do have a lot of urchins off our coast. So it's important that the kelp is staying nice and healthy. So the kelp and urchin relationship can stay in check. But fortunately for us, there are animals we do have locally that do like to eat sea urchins. So that's nature, right? Talking about it on Earth Week, that there are things to keep those checks and balances in place, but that's where we need to make sure it's our job to lessen our impact on the ocean. So those habitats can thrive and those animals can keep living on.
Definitely. I heard a great analogy recently that talked about how all the different organisms within an ecosystem, you can imagine them as each as an individual spoke on the wheel of a bike. You imagine a bike wheel having all of those little metal spokes coming out of it. And if you take away too many of those spokes, then the wheel is going to collapse and you're not going to be able to ride with it. So giant kelp, I would say, is not just one spoke within that wheel. It is a major part of it, because not only is it important for adult fish, it's important for species that are migrating past the coast, like whales or sharks or other animals like that. And also it's a really important nursery habitat. So if we lost giant kelp, we would be impacting not just the animals that are living there now, but the animals that visit it and take pit stops to maybe rest or feed in the kelp, as well as the future generations of animals. So just like deforestation on land is a pretty sad and rough thing, when we lose kelp forests, it's just like that. But luckily, we have marine protected areas, and we have a lot of really healthy kelp forests along the west coast of the United States still. So fingers crossed that kelp is pretty resilient, and I think it's doing all right for right now. So pretty cool. Yeah. Oh, we had a follow-up question of the Garibaldis. How many Garibaldis are in this exhibit?
Ooh. I mean, there's a bunch around in the front.
Yeah. And we'll have to ask our aquarist team. 7, maybe 5.
Yeah, between 5 and 7, maybe. We'll have to ask. We know there's about 250 fish in here, and they're not all Garibaldi, but yeah. They're really easy to spot. So maybe you can help us by trying to count how many of those bright orange fish you can see. Definitely can see at least 3 right now. There might be a couple more though.
Yeah, definitely a bunch in there. Oh, we have another question from Sophie. Ooh. Is there a baby shark in there?
Ooh, is there a baby shark? There's not a baby shark, but there are sharks in our exhibit. Of course, one swims by right now as we're talking about them.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So the one swimming right in front of the exhibit right now is a leopard shark. And that is an almost full-grown leopard shark. They get to about 6 feet in length. And that is a local species. And they like to hang out on the bottom during the day to rest. And then at nighttime, they go into our local underwater canyons to hunt for squid. So that's one species of shark we have in this exhibit. We have 2 other species as well. One of them is the horn shark. And hensing the name horn shark means that it does have horns on the back of its dorsal fins, which are those fins right on the back of its body. And then the other shark is a swell shark. Why it's called a swell shark is that it actually has a defense mechanism where it can swell up if it feels like it's in danger. It's pretty cool to see. But the swell and horn shark species, they get to maybe about 4 feet in length. So we tend to think of sharks, we think big animals. But there are many species of sharks ranging in all sizes. So yes, we do have sharks in this exhibit, and they seem to do pretty well. They like being around the other fish and having that kind of, I don't know, that sense of, okay, I'm in my habitat, I have everything I need. Yeah. And they thrive, they swim around and seem pretty healthy.
And we've definitely gotten the question before, why is there only one leopard shark in this exhibit? Well, that's because this is our one male leopard shark, and the other leopard sharks we have are females, and we keep them in our Shark Shores exhibit, which is a great representation of the La Jolla Shores Beach, which we have right here in La Jolla. And the La Jolla Shores Beach is a sandy shore habitat, which is another place that leopard sharks love to live. And so people ask, well, why do you have to keep the males and females separated? We're trying not to have any surprise baby sharks. So that's a common husbandry tactic, or husbandry is, taking care of the animals behind the scenes. And so you'll see this in zoos and aquariums around the world, keeping the males and females separate if you don't want any unexpected baby sharks coming around.
It has happened.
Yeah, it has happened before, but and actually that is not the case for the horn sharks and swell sharks in this exhibit, because we do have them lay eggs every once in a while, and our aquarist team will pick those up when they are cleaning the exhibit, and we'll try to hatch them out behind the scenes. Very cool. Oh, we had a follow-up question for the leopard sharks from Sophie. Are they dangerous in the wild, or do we have to be worried about leopard sharks?
Not at all. You know, most species of sharks are harmless to humans, and those that might feel like are a bit harmful to humans, it's always because they mistaken us for food, right? We're in their home, in their habitat, and so it's easy to mistake us for what they like to eat. But for a leopard shark, it only gets to about 6 feet long, and it actually has the mouth the size of a human mouth. So you can imagine it's not going to try to go after something that's as big as us, right? Their main source of food are those squid that live in the canyons. They also love mollusks, so things that have shells that they can crunch up and find in the sandy bottom. So this is a very calm species, and what's really unique is that there was a lot of research done a couple years ago at Scripps Institution of Oceanography studying the local leopard sharks that we have off of San Diego's coast. And they found out during the summer that most of the leopard sharks we have here off our coast are pregnant females. So they actually will congregate in really shallow, warm waters. They'll stay there to rest during the day, and then at night they're off to go hunt for their squid. And it's pretty fascinating, and people will go snorkel with them. I know I've been many times. I'm sure Caitlin's been a bunch. It's one of our favorite hobbies in the summertime because they're just beautiful animals, and you can just snorkel with them, and it's really peaceful.
It is, and I think it's really amazing that the leopard sharks do aggregate in that spot, because La Jolla Shores Beach, when it's a normal summer, is very crowded. And it's where they gather is pretty close to where people launch kayaks. It's by some big hotels. And so what we have is a great example of an urban shark. People don't think about sharks living right offshore from where you could see them from office buildings and things like that. But these leopard sharks that live here in La Jolla and throughout San Diego are urban species, if you think about it. They're right there. And it's really amazing that they've been doing this since before people came to La Jolla, and they're continuing it now. So it's really neat to learn more about these species and to know that they're doing really amazing behaviors essentially right in our backyard. Very cool. So you guys keep these questions coming. We are getting some great ones. And also don't forget to let us know what you're doing for Earth Week in the comments. Delanie and I shared a little bit earlier. I'm doing gardening and trying to source my food from closer to home to help reduce the carbon footprint. Delanie's doing rain barrels and conserving water. Really great. So we want to hear what you guys are also doing at home for Earth Week, and hopefully every week, because every day is Earth Day, right? Ooh, we got a really great question from Franco, who wants to be an aquarist as a career. An aquarist is someone who takes care of the animals at an aquarium, much like a zookeeper takes care of animals at a zoo. So Delanie, can you tell us a little bit more about what it takes to be an aquarist?
Yeah, what I will say is there's no one set path on how to get into the field of husbandry and taking care of animals. But the best thing you can do is to just get experience. There's many zoos and aquariums that have volunteer programs, starting as young as for 16 years old and up. And you can get really great hands-on experience through those opportunities. At Birch Aquarium, we've got our volunteer program of over 400 volunteers, and it's National Volunteer Appreciation Week, so shouting out to all of our volunteers at home. But there's many of our volunteers who assist our aquarist team because, as you can imagine, it's a really big job and there's a lot of work to do. So it's hands-on work that's going to get you the experience you need to make that next step and possibly get that first job if you're getting out of school or just trying to build that resume. So hands-on experience. And again, a lot of aquariums and zoos, they have those volunteer programs in place. And some offer summer internship programs where it's a bit more hands-on and you get a chance to maybe build that professional resume and interview skills. And yeah, so you just got to look for those opportunities and you got to reach out and kind of see what's out there. But it's nice to find out if you want to take care of animals first before you dive right in. It's a big, big job, and it's very exhausting.
It's really an amazing job too, because gaining that experience experience, not only will you learn if it's the job for you, which is very important because there's a lot of early hours, late nights, and the animals have to be taken care of every single day. It's not just a 9 to 5, Monday through Friday type job. So you might have to work on weekends or early, or for the case of our sea dragon and seahorse aquarists, they might be on call for 24 hours if we know we have some eggs that are going to hatch or an animal is sick. So being able to be flexible is really important as well. And I think it's a really great job for somebody who is interested in having a job that is multifaceted, because our Aquarius team, not only are they biologists and they are scientists to know the natural history and the life history of many of the animals, they also have to be chemists. Somebody asked about water chemistry earlier. We can go back to that question in a little bit, but they have to be chemists to make sure that our animals are living in the appropriate type of water. They have to also be veterinarians at times, because our vet staff, they are amazing, but they are not working at Birch Aquarium every day. So they need to be able to assess the animals and also potentially be able to administer some of the medicine if a animal needs medicine. So they are going to be biologists, chemists, veterinarians at times. They have to be really good at attention to detail, because you have to know how many fish are always in your exhibit, as well as are they all doing okay? And have I cleaned everything appropriately? And I think you have to have a really good attitude if that's your job, because it can be tough. It can be tough being an aquarist at times, but it seems like rewards are really worth it. And I'm sure that our aquarist team would agree. They're really great. We appreciate them. They're working on 2 different shifts. Delanie, you probably know a little bit better than I do how they're working right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you tell me how or tell us what's the deal? What are they doing behind the scenes?
Yeah, our husbandry team are considered essential workers for the aquarium because, like Caitlin said, they have to keep those animals alive and thriving. So they have gone down to working 10-hour days, 4 days a week, in order to be there and to minimize their time spent with each other for social distancing. But they are still taking care of all the animals, making sure the exhibits are nice and clean. They're thinking of, what is our exhibits going to look like? What animals are we going to have when we can reopen to the public again, and make sure we've got nice, fun animals for people to enjoy. And they're starting to go scuba diving again. So as an aquarist with Birch Aquarium, they have permits so they can go out into the wild and collect things sustainably to make sure that we can keep these tanks nice and healthy and have nice, beautiful exhibits for people to learn about and learn about some of these animals living here. So they're working very, very hard, and the whole aquarium is just super proud of them. And obviously we all miss them, and we just can't wait for when our doors can reopen again. So they're working very, very hard. So make sure you guys give a nice shout out to our husbandry team during these times, because like everything Caitlin said, it is a tough, tough job, but very, very rewarding.
Definitely. That was a great question, Franco. Thanks for asking it. And we're always happy to talk about cool STEM careers, because there are definitely a lot of them affiliated with Birch Aquarium as well as Scripps Oceanography. If you are interested in doing any sort of science, engineering, math, technology, even art and things like that, Scripps Oceanography, they study not only the ocean, they study earth processes, they study the atmosphere. And actually a Scripps Oceanography alum, she just came back from the International Space Station. Jessica Meir was in space. So you never know where a career can take you. Really, really amazing. Let's see, looks like some people are doing some really great things for Earth Week. Yeah. Sophie is asking people to plant a tree instead of doing birthday presents. That's a really great idea. And there are a lot of organizations that you work with who can plant a tree on your behalf. That's a great one. Let's see. Oh, and Caroline is eating more plant-based. She tried a new plant-based curry this week. So props to you, Caroline. That sounds really good.
I think if there's a time for
really good, really good.
Try recipes, it's probably right now. Trying some new recipes from home, or
right?
Yeah.
Definitely. Definitely, definitely. So keep letting us know what you guys are doing for Earth Week. I know that Delanie and I did prepare something a little bit silly for you guys. In that we both picked our favorite ocean joke. And please keep in mind that these are intentionally terrible jokes. But I don't know the answer to Delanie's, and Delanie doesn't know the answer to mine. So Delanie, do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first for our terrible but great ocean jokes?
I'll go first. I'll go for it.
All right.
All right, Caitlin and those joining in with us. What does a dolphin say when he's confused?
Oh, I don't know. I really need the answer.
That's a good one. Not quite.
Uh-oh. All right, Delanie, tell us, what is the answer?
All right, the answer is, can you please be more Pacific?
Get out of here. That's a great one. Heyo. And very appropriate, because here in the Pacific, we have a type of dolphin that we see relatively often with that name.
Yeah, I'm going to share a photo with all of you of the Pacific white-sided dolphin. Now, this is a local species that you can see off of our coastal waters. Can you guys see this dolphin okay? Is it coming in, Caitlin?
Let's see.
There we go.
Oh, there it is. Yay. Oh, it's so cute.
One of my favorite species of dolphins, the Pacific white-sided dolphin. They get to about 6 feet long, and they're a really unique species of dolphin because they actually have more of that kind of rounded, what we call the rostrum, the mouth area, than a typical dolphin has. Usually it's more beak and pointed. And they also have a really beautiful curved dorsal fin on their back. So if you go out whale watching, you can actually spot these animals pretty easily if you know what to look for. But of course, you find them in large pods and swimming together. You'll see them jumping, or the term we use is called porpoising, out of the water. They're just beautiful. They're one of my favorite animals. So of course I had to find an ocean joke that was related to these guys.
That makes me so happy. They're one of my favorite dolphins also. I love they have that black, it looks like they're wearing black lipstick. So yeah, whenever we see them on the whale watching boats, we'd always get really excited. I also feel like they are particularly curious dolphins. Anytime we would see unusual behavior or interesting behavior from the gray whales that were migrating past, or even I've seen them do it with humpback whales, you know something's going on under the water if there are a bunch of Pacific white-sided dolphins that are kind of jumping up and diving down with the whales. I think they're so curious. What are you guys doing down there? I wish we could ask you. And that was a great one, Delanie. I'm going to remember it and lock that joke away. Are you ready for my favorite ocean joke?
I'm ready.
What is an octopus's favorite song?
What is an octopus's favorite song? It's got to be something with 8. It's got 8 arms. I don't know.
Let's see. I just got a notification I have unstable internet, so I don't know. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. We'll see if we're doing an octopus photo for you guys. But the answer is, and as a Beatles fan, be my heart, this is my favorite. An octopus's favorite song is "I Want to Hold Your Hand, 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 Hand." That's my favorite joke to teach little kids because they will proceed to say "hand" a million times. So, guys, file those away for all of your fun quarantine times right now. Oh, Craig wants to know if we can be a little bit more Pacific about these jokes.
We'll try.
Right, Craig, we got this. Anyway, thank you guys for humoring us. We have a good time on these little chats with you. So it looks like we have just about 5 more minutes before we're going to have to sign off today. But please go ahead and ask us any more questions in the next few minutes. And we really want to take some time to encourage you guys to check out some of the things that we've shared for Earth Week. Delanie, your team pulled together what seems like kind of a daunting challenge, but really is kind of fun and easy and something you can work on through all of Earth Week.
Yeah, so we have our Earth Day Challenge on our website, so aquarium.ucsd.edu, and you can check it out on our Earth Day link on our website there, and try to see how many challenges you can complete. Earth Day yesterday was the official day, and it was the 50th anniversary, which is super, super special. So we have 50 challenges that we're seeing if people can complete right from home. So I really highly encourage all of you to go and check them out. There's activities that'll get you moving and being critically thinking about what you're doing, and multisensory, and really, really fun if you've got kids at home. And then others that are going to challenge you to think more sustainably and think about how you can reduce your carbon footprint and to make actions that are sustainable for our planet. And then simple things like having a moment of Zen and taking big, big breaths, and knowing that we get lots of our oxygen from the oceans. In fact, we get more than half from our ocean, and the other half from planet Earth, from trees and plants on land. So make sure you go check out our website and participate in those Earth Day challenges. And then on social media, we have our stories that are still live from Earth Day yesterday that have our Earth Day pledges and just fun posts you can put up on your own stories about what you can do to help our ocean planet. And so you can participate in that social media pledge as well, and post those along with trying to do the challenges from home as well.
Definitely.
Yes. And last there's also a fun video. If you want to learn a little bit of some fun ocean facts to share with your friends, we've got an Earth Day video that our marketing team developed that's on our website as well. So lots of things to check out during Earth Week. And yeah, so make sure you save a little bit of time today or tomorrow to do that.
Definitely. Sorry, guys, my internet cut out there for a second, but I really love all of the challenges that Delanie was talking about. And then also, if you're not following us on YouTube, highly recommend it. We have a lot of really amazing videos that are coming out, like moments of Zen to have a calm morning on Fridays, and fun fact videos, and lots of behind the scenes looks right now. So if you're not following us on YouTube, highly recommend it. Let's see if we got any more questions come in. So Sophie, I feel like this question we could answer for days. So Sophie wants to know more about other aquatic STEM careers. Maybe on our next Kelp Cam Live, we can talk about a few more of these. But maybe, Delanie, do you have any other ocean-oriented STEM careers that you can think of that might be ones that people hadn't thought of before? I feel like I'm putting you on the spot.
I mean, I think you're saying it perfectly that we could talk about this for a really long time. Going into an ocean STEM career, you can choose to become a researcher and become a scientist and study something that you find a lot of passion for and find really valuable for not just our community, but our nation, our planet. And so going into a graduate school like Scripps Institution of Oceanography and choosing a area to focus in and study is one path people tend to take. So if you think you're a scientist, you love working in the lab, writing papers, and getting that science out there, that might be a path you want to take. Others go maybe an education route. So myself and Caitlin, we've worked in education for many, many years, and now Caitlin works on the marketing side. But working in an aquarium, we get to talk to guests on a daily basis and also be surrounded by animals and teach people about them. So for us, it's being the voice for a lot of that science and getting out into the community and teaching people about why the ocean is so important and just getting interested in the animals that live in it. You might have other people who go into policy work and want to get the laws made that are going to protect our ocean and our animals. So it really depends on what you're interested in. And I think that's why it's so important for younger generations to get out there, get experience, and just try things. You're never going to know what you're interested in until you try it. So Caitlin said,
definitely.
Definitely.
That answer kind of makes my heart sing, because I think that so many people get intimidated thinking that any sort of science career means you are going to have a white lab coat and that you might end up working in a laboratory. Well, for many scientists, that is never the case, which is really amazing. And talking about myself for a minute, I had that choice of going to the hard science route. I went to Scripps Oceanography for graduate school, and I decided I love talking about the ocean too much. So I didn't want to be in a lab. I wanted to be in a position where I could keep talking about the ocean to really cool people like you. Because even though I loved the lab work and the hard science, what I was passionate about was chatting with you guys. Inspire more people to love the ocean world. So I know that's something that a lot of people in our education department and a lot of people at the aquarium feel that way. And we hope that you guys are feeling a little bit of that with these broadcasts. And so also on the same line of the careers, we are going to be welcoming a few more of our aquarists coming up in the future on these broadcasts. I know we had Aquarist Mike. He was a really great person to hear about how he ended up in his career. I even learned a few things about him. So if you want to learn more about how our Aquarist Mike kind of had a roundabout way to getting to where he is, check out one of our previous broadcasts from last week, which was really great. All right, guys, it looks like we are just about done. Oh, somebody's bringing up our Ocean STEM Career Night. That is also a really great resource, and we're going to try to get some materials online for you guys since we're not going to be able to have that in person this year, so keep your eyes peeled for that. But anyway, thank you so much, Delanie, for coming on with us today. And thank you guys for tuning in and participating in Earth Week, because it's really Earth Week every week and Earth Day every day to me. So anyway, all right, guys. Well, we will talk to you next Tuesday at 10. We'll be on. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Bye.